All right, Fletcher. So DCFC is about to kick off its 8th season. It starts May 12th against the Michigan Stars up at Ultimate Soccer Arenas in Pontiac. First home game at Keyworth is May 19th against Kalamazoo FC. A lot of changes for City this year. Big season for them. New coach and Trevor James. Talk quickly about like sort of some of the new changes. Why is this an important season for them?
This is the first season in a long time they'll be without Ben Pierman. I actually think the first season period since the beginning without Ben Pierman.
Former coach.
Who left for Memphis 903, I think this is the team name.
Yeah,
USL
I think they're
team.
USL, right.
Trevor James is a coach you bring in for a turnaround. He took hold of the Indy 11 of the USL, and Indy 11 were like bad. Not like terrible, but like not great. And he turned him into a mid-table team, and with that roster, that's great because they were bad. So you bring him in when he's kind of the similar coach to Ben Pierman. So like it's great to have someone who will have the same mental fortitude, the same kind of tactics, similar way of talking to the players and getting stuff done. So it's great.
He brings that Brit sensibility too.
Exactly. So when he says stuff, you're gonna be like, he must be right because the accent.
They've been playing soccer over there a lot longer than we have.
Exactly. Also, it's the Founders Cup, the first year ever, the Founders Cup, which is the Npsl's stab at a professional kind of tier to make up for the NASL, which closed. They're trying to make another league, NISA, which I'm not sure if it's ever going to even open, potentially. But it's a chance for these players and teams that are allowed to actually pay their players, all of them pay their players, and see some matchups you wouldn't normally see. So it's great for the Detroit to get in there because they're bringing in some players who you might have not have seen like in Major League or in Europe or anywhere else, but like you might have heard of them like, oh, this guy played for the US 23 team, or this guy was for the Canadian team, or this guy played for the national team of like Kenya or like Guyana or something. So it's like you get to see some players who will be a step up in talent. Yeah. And I think Detroit can benefit from that, whether it's just the first half of the season or the second half.
And are they bringing these players in? Like, have they already brought them in, or will they be coming in over the course of the season? Because the Founders Cup that you're talking about doesn't start until August.
Some of the players are. When you see them on Twitter, they'll announce a few players where they're like, we've signed, for example, Cyrus Sadie, who's like their talisman.
He's been around for a few years.
We've signed him for the full season. You'll see a player there like, we signed him for the Founders Cup.
Okay.
Or we signed him for the regular season. So you've watched the words they say. Typically, if it's a kid who's still in college, like I know they signed a lot of, since Ben Pierman left and he used to coach at Michigan State.
Right.
The rules with Npsl is, or any amateur league soccer, if your coach coaches a university, you cannot have kids from the university because that way it's NCAA rule.
Okay.
So when he left, all the Michigan State kids came to Detroit City. So those kids who are still enrolled in school, they will not probably be playing in the Founders Cup because that's where money's exchanged and
that would validate their NCAA eligibility. Right.
But some of the players who are joining for the Founders Cup will typically probably join the team during parts of the season. They probably won't stay and really start doing things until near the end of the season.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds weird, but I guess you'd expect nothing less of U.S. soccer, right?
Yep.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the roster for the NPSL regular season, which again starts just pretty soon, May 12th. You mentioned Cyrus Sadie, he's back, along with some old favorites, Seb Harris, Danny Deacon, Sean Lawson. What else stands out to you about the new roster, and talk about some of the key new arrivals that you see?
He was here 2 years ago. He was also here last year, but he didn't get a chance to play. Tyrone Mondi. I remember I loved him before he got to Detroit City. I used to play Football Manager, and
that's a video game.
Yeah, it's basically like a computer game where you are a coach and you assemble your team and you go out and sign players and they just go out and play, and it's like, what can you do to make your players play better? And Tyrone Mondi was actually on Football Manager, so I was like, oh, they got this one kid, 15 years old, I'm gonna buy him. And then I sold him off to like Newcastle for like $50 million. Then I look up and it's like, you're right in front of me. Weird. I'm sorry for selling you. I'm sorry, but he's a really great talent. They missed him a lot. While they had a revamped lineup last year in the attack, they were missing just the dynamic pace that he brings. He's quick player, good with both his feet. He's got flair, so he'll go by you and he'll let you know. And you need people with the fans like that. You need people who are going to get kind of the crowd pumped up, because sometimes the crowd, like as players have said, they feed off the crowd. And if the crowd's just kind of like what's happening now, they might just stand there. If they know like this, go get the guy, go at him. It'll get more exciting. So I'm excited for him to come back. Max Todd, who's infamous for scoring that goal during the smoke game against Milwaukee. Milwaukee Torrent, where the smoke went off and the field kind of got blurry. He hopped in there, just got a ball into the net. He's back as well. He racked up a lot of goals, I think, at Detroit Mercy. So it's good to have someone who's up front like that. Sadie, of course, in the middle. They got Bakey Goodman back from a stint with USL's Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Solid center midfielder who knows what he's doing. Typically won't turn over the ball, will make the smart play. They have Seb Harris back. They have Omar Sinclair, who's great from dead ball, great from free kick. A little bit of a hothead. Kind of gotta watch that a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you get a drop ball and he gets a chance to take a shot, he's probably putting it in the corner. So exciting team all around.
Yeah. So you cover the NPSL Great Lakes Division, as I mentioned. You're pretty familiar with all the Michigan teams. Let's talk a little bit about the division. There's one newcomer to the 8-team division, Toledo Villa. What do we know about them?
They played in the UPSL the year before. They played in the Premier League of America the year before that.
These are lower tier?
The UPSL is kind of the similar tier. It's kind of like the NPSL, except like on steroids. NPSL has like 90 teams. UPSL is probably about 210. And every week they're adding 3 more teams. It's really, they have teams in Alaska. They had a team in Puerto Rico. It's kind of nuts just how they're expanding. They played there. They did okay. In the UPSL, they did all right in the PLA. I have personal bad blood with the owners of the team, so I'm always going to say like they're going to lose. They're just going to lose. But I think they have a solid team. I think they're in for a rude awakening in this division, though. Just based off what I saw from them last year, I don't think they have the skill on the wings to compete with, say, Detroit or Ann Arbor, or the sides in the middle to compete with someone like Grand Rapids. So, those are the 3 teams you want to beat to try to go to the playoffs, and I don't know if they'll do against those 3 teams.
Yeah. So you see Grand Rapids, FC, Ann Arbor, AFC, and City.
Those are my 3 teams in a random order. I don't know yet.
Okay. Detroit City FC, of course, coming off a disappointing season last year. They missed the playoffs. You were saying that they've kind of established this interesting pattern.
Yes, since 2012, they made the playoffs when they had 5 teams. 2013, they made the playoffs. 2014, they missed. 2015, they made it. 2016, they missed. So every even year, they miss the playoffs. Every odd year, they come really close to winning the division. So it's 2019. I expect them to be really good this year. If not just for the players, if so I can just say that I'm right and this is my theory and go with it. If they're bad, then kind of puts a big dent in my theory, and I can't live with that. So
yeah. All right. Well, there you hear it. So lots of new things. We mentioned Trevor James. They've got new suites made of shipping containers going in at Keyworth. They've got a new pitch surface, the artificial turf pitch. A lot of improvements over there. It was
a little embarrassing to have a game rained out just because the rain would not. I don't know if you were there for the game. It rained so hard that the pitch started to bubble up in parts, and they had to take brooms and go out and push it around. And when they kept pushing kind of parts of the pitch down, other parts would start bubbling up.
Oh man!
So they had to just cancel the game because we can't. They played 3 minutes. They're this pitch is unplayable. So they came back the following week, started up from I think 4 minutes and 21 seconds about, and said, all right, we'll start the game from here, and they just went from there. So it was a little embarrassing because now that they have all the production and everything, it's legit being broadcast out on television or Fox Sports Detroit, so I guess it's internet TV. So watching everyone see this and say, oh my God, we have to stop this was a little kind of sucked.
A little bit of a reality check.
So for them to handle that immediately and get the okay from, and I know it's not totally their fault because they're sharing it with Hamtramck's school district, so they have to okay all this stuff as well. If they feel it's okay for them, then you have to just roll with it. So to get everything kind of in motion for them in Hamtramck School District to be on the same page, it's great. That you really want to see teams in the neighborhoods, teams in areas like that really kind of sink into the community. And that's one thing Detroit City has done, whether it's in Cass Tech with them, whether it's Hamtramck, whether it's wherever they go next, unless they're staying here forever. You like how they just kind of I don't want to say put their hooks because that makes it sound negative, but how they kind of just integrate in and like the community becomes part of them and they become part of the community.
Yeah. And then, of course, we wrote about it on dailydetroit.com. They just announced the new partnership with Lost River, the tiki bar over on the east side near your house, as you said, which that's an interesting little wrinkle. That should make game days even more fun.
You're gonna instead of going there and just trying to get like a regular beer, you can get one of those like nice little tropical punches. You can be
a flaming zombie or something.
Exactly, and sometimes you get little like cool skeleton hands. Just be in the crowd shaking the little skeleton. That's right. Northern Guard has skeletal skull and bones gear. You get a little skeletal hand. It's all coming together. That makes perfect sense. This is great. Wow, I didn't even think about this till just now. That's amazing.
There you go. So what do we know? Let's turn to the Npsl Founders Cup, as you mentioned. It's the inaugural tournament, the first stab at making a go of it as a professional team. I think 11 teams in the inaugural cup, right?
I think it's
between East and West.
It's gonna be down to 10. I think Cal United just dropped out.
Oh, really?
That's been like one of the downsides of it is. It's like one of the teams in the West, two teams in the West Coast have dropped out already. Napa Valley jumped back in to make up for a team. But like it's looking, that's never a good sign when it's supposed to like start soon. And some of these teams are like, you know what, we can't deal with like the travel, which is weird because all the Western Coast teams are all not traveling that far. They're all traveling through California, maybe that area here.
Yeah, the geographic distribution is kind of crazy. It's like, it's California down into like Arizona has a team.
Yeah.
And then over on the East Coast, I mean, Milwaukee and Detroit City FC are like the two kind of, Midwest, holdouts among, everybody else is on the East Coast, New York Cosmos and two teams from Miami and everything. I mean, it's going to be some crazy travel.
It should, but also it's going to be fun. I for one am happy to get a chance to see teams like New York Cosmos, FC Miami in person, just because watching streams of them, watching them on the U.S. Open Cup, watching whatever, it's like you get to appreciate some of the talent, but you don't actually get to really appreciate it until you actually see some guy do the same thing in front of you. And I'm all for that. That's great. I want to see the Cosmos traveling fans, see how crazy they actually get. I want to see the speed of the Miami teams through the middle and through the outside. I want to see all of that. I'm excited. I'm sure the Detroit fans are excited as well, but they get to actually see their players at a higher level. They get to see players who they thought might be able to compete in the professional level, how they actually will be able to fare. Yeah. I think most of the ones they still have will do exceptionally well. Some, not so much. But that's where the new players you brought in will cover for that. So
right, and we'll have to make assessments of their chances as that gets closer and we have a better sense of what their roster is going to look like. All right, well, hey, Fletcher, look forward to the season and hope you can come on and give us your regular kind of game recaps and talk about developments with the Rouge.
For sure, as long as people still need me to answer questions about stuff like that, always have time for that.
Yep. All right. Well, good to see you, Fletcher Sharpe, correspondent for Midfield Press. Thanks so much for coming into Daily Detroit. We appreciate it, man.